All right, good morning. We are live. What's New in AWS, brought to you by AWS Enterprise Support. I hope you're all doing well on this Friday morning. I am coming to you from Sydney, Australia, where it is so wet. My hair is wet and I'm still inside the house. It's crazy here, crazy wet. But fortunately, I've got some good company. We've got some guests and some hosts today who are going to run you through the latest releases on AWS for the last month. Today's Friday, the 8th of April. We've got the live stream on Twitch and YouTube. So let's bring in our favorite hosts. We've got Carlos Gonzalez, we've got Rovan Omar, and we've got Matthew Platts. We do not have Donald Rumsfeld today, unfortunately, but he wanted to let us know about unknown unknowns, and I thought this is a good theme for this month because as we were going through some of the services. I realize there's a few that have been released for about 2 years that I didn't know about. Bottle Rocket is one of them, which Matt and I will talk about later in the Compute Lounge. But yeah, the unknown unknowns. That's what we're trying to do here on this show. We're trying to uncover what they might be for us, for our customers, enterprise support customers, and beyond. So welcome, one and all. Carlos, Rovan, Matt, how are we?
Very good.
Good.
You're coming back to us from the lounge of the Hilton again, Carlos, I can see.
I sure am. I had to park the boat right in front of the hotel just to get here and keep myself dry as possible these days in Sydney.
I think I can see Rovan in the office as well, if I've got the background correct.
Yep, exactly. And linear and everything. Woke up with no internet this morning, so I had to come to the office. Really good to see the office.
Yeah, we've had, while we're doing our testing this morning, a whole bunch of internet problems with people. So hopefully we don't have anything over the next half an hour or so. But if we do, we'll flip over and make the best of it. Rovan, actually got you a present, given it's coming up to Easter. Got you a little Easter bunny. But unfortunately, it's Ramadan this week, so I don't think you can have it. Is that right?
After sunset, yeah, for sure. Don't spare it. Send it over.
I was going to eat it myself, but
yeah.
Good. All right, I'll save it for you.
Mark, was that just a completely massive Easter bunny, or is that a depth of field problem on the camera? Because that looks exceptionally. Looks pretty big from this side. No, there it is. That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, it's pretty small. It's a 1 meter bunny. That's how we roll here. All right, so we're going to jump into it. I think Carlos, you're going to go first with some database updates. We'll let you take away. We've also got a special guest, Samir, I think, joining. So hi, Samir. How's it going? Hopefully you can hear us there.
Hey, Mark. Hi, everyone. Good to be here.
You can. Fantastic. Okay, Carlos. We'll.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I've got it. I will rock and roll with our database releases this month. And as Mark mentioned, I have our resident database specialist, Samir Kumar, who once again is a specialist TAM out of Singapore. And as mentioned previously in his previous appearance on the stream, he really works exclusively with our enterprise customers, just striving to improve operational efficiency and scaling capabilities in the database space. And just a bit of housekeeping here. If anyone has any questions, for anyone on the panel, just be sure to drop your questions into the comment section. We'll do our best to answer them, but if we don't address them live, our experts will be sticking around after their bits to answer them directly in the comment section. So, Samir, let's kick off with the first announcement with Aurora this month. And we have a release from Aurora where we have a new multi-version upgrade feature. That's a bit of a tongue twister. What is this, and why is this a big deal for our customers?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you know, we recommend. As you know, we recommend customers to upgrade their databases to latest major version as soon as they can, and that ensures that they benefit from the new features. Also, from time to time, we deprecate old versions. For example, earlier in this year, in January, we deprecated Aurora PostgreSQL 9.6, which means we will not be releasing any new patches or bug fixes for Aurora Postgres 9.6. Now, we encourage customers to upgrade their databases before we deprecate them so that they have well tested it against their application and they know that they're not up for any new surprises when they actually go ahead with the production upgrade. Now, if a customer had to upgrade to the next major version upgrade, in this case, that's version 10, they would have to do it in place, and they would have to do it with some downtime. And if they had to go to another a higher version, such as version 11 or version 12, then they would have to do one more round of upgrade, and that means they would have longer outage. Now, with this release, customers will be able to upgrade in one go from 9.6 to version 11 or above that. So they can go from 9.6 to version 12 or version 13 and benefit from all the new features and releases that has happened since version 10.
So that sounds really amazing, because it'll help customers bring down, I guess, expected downtime and perhaps inconvenience caused, like, for all involved when attempting to upgrade from one major version to another. And I mean, we're really encouraging customers to position themselves much better here, and it brings to the forefront the core benefits that these actual version updates for Postgres bring, right, Samir? So I guess it'd be good to point out, like, how do the benefits shape up from that perspective, from the actual versions that they're able to go to a bit more quickly and safely?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's not just about the new features, but there are also a lot of performance and stability improvements that are there in the new versions. Additionally, we also offer support for new extensions in these new versions. For example, customers who upgrade from 9.6 or version 10 to version 11, version 12, or version 13, they would be able to benefit from new performance and manageability improvements with respect to parallel query, logical replication, and table partitioning. All these are features that Aurora PostgreSQL inherits from Community Postgres. Additionally, we have also added support for extensions like PG Partman and PG Cron, which is available only on version 12 or version 13. It's not available on the older versions.
Yes, it's a good point. So there's like a big way of compiling all the benefits and the good news for customers who, again, were previously facing downtime in big version advancements such as these, where they would essentially try and update in place, and now they have an easier path of resistance. And I think some folks, there was also there's that other option of using DMS to facilitate these type of upgrades, but there may have been some challenges in some instances even in that sense. For example, if you were upgrading from Aurora Postgres 9.6, which you pointed out earlier, Samir, like DMS unfortunately had incompatibilities perhaps with PG Logical, which is one of the replication mechanisms in Postgres. And I'm sure you've witnessed similar situations in the field where upgrades were required, but the path was not so direct as it could be, as it is now with this new update that we're offering.
Yeah, you're right. So upgrading from version 9.6 required an outage, or customers could take a PG dump and restore, or they had to do an in-place upgrade because it did not support logical decoding. So customers could not use logical replication or PG logical or DMS. But now with this release, they can go from 9.6 to version 11 or version 12, and they can do it in one go. Also want to call out the fact that using DMS or logical replication just to go from version X to version X plus 3 has an additional complexity of setting up the replication, monitoring, and managing the replication involved there.
Yeah.
But now customers who want to just upgrade, and they can they can bite the bullet and say, hey, we can have some outage, but we want to go from 9.6 to version 11 or version 12. They can do that much easily now. It reduces the complexity of multi-major version upgrade for them.
Absolutely, and just reduces the complexity of just organizing your teams as well. And there's a large coordination, that customers would go through just to enable these. So the other good news here is that this feature is now available in all regions. That's something for everyone to try today. So that's fantastic. Just moving forward, we have an interesting release from RDS Postgres with support for 2 new foreign data wrappers for RDS Postgres SQL, namely the TDS FTW extension libraries for SQL Server, and the MySQL FTW for MySQL, and Aurora MySQL and MariaDB. So that was a lot to say, but I guess, Samir, can you tell us, let's start with a foreign data wrapper. Can you tell us what that is? And then looping back to the release update, why is this such an important announcement to our customers?
Yeah, sure. Well, foreign data wrappers in PostgreSQL, they allow you to access data stored in foreign data stores. That is a database outside of the server where you're running your query. So you could have your PostgreSQL database running on one server, and you could query from data that is on a different server. That database could be running PostgreSQL that is supported by Postgres FTW. We also recently announced support for Oracle FTW. So customers who are running PostgreSQL can connect to an Oracle database and query from an Oracle table. Now you can also do that with MySQL, MariaDB, Aurora MySQL, and SQL Server. And you can query data alongside the tables which are in PostgreSQL. It makes life a lot easy for customers who have federated data stores.
Yeah, and I'm sure we have customers on the stream who can use this this update today. But for those that are not sure how they can apply and benefit from this, can you perhaps share some specific use case examples in the field?
Yeah, sure. Imagine you have a database which is used by finance department of a large enterprise, and they use it for processing payrolls. And then there is this other database which is used by human resources folks who use that database to store employee information. And every end of the month, the finance team would like to get an update of who are the latest set of employees, where are they located, which department are they working in, so that they can accurately process the payroll as per the latest information. Now, you can build a service that provides this kind of pull or push mechanism for the finance team, or you could simply implement that using a foreign table at the database level, which kind of simplifies the whole solution. Earlier, RDS PostgreSQL already supported foreign data wrapper for Postgres and Oracle. So going back to our example, HR database could be on Oracle or Postgres, and finance team would still be able to create a foreign table and reference to the latest set of data. But now with these new extensions supported, the human resources team could have their database on SQL Server or MySQL or even MariaDB and or Aurora MySQL, and they would still be able to benefit from data federation from PostgreSQL database that is used by their service. Another use case for this could be to migrate data from SQL Server or MySQL to PostgreSQL. That will make that migration a lot more faster.
Yeah, thanks, Samir. That makes it really clear, and that this is a clever and really efficient way for customers to access their data on these other databases, to connect, to move, obtain, from their SQL Server, MySQL, or MariaDB endpoints. So this is a nice update for developers and application owners involved. Yes, at this point, let's pivot to some billing on RDS, and we've released support for itemized billing on RDS storage, IOPS, and backup features. And I think there's never enough data when it comes to understanding where your cloud spend is, especially when you have many teams leveraging many services. So this is a most welcome development. Samir, perhaps you can share some details on this release with our audience.
Yeah, sure. Now in Cost Utilization Report and AWS Cost Explorer, customers will be able to get more granular breakdown of Amazon RDS backup and storage related cost. Storage as in specifically general purpose SSD cost, provision IOPS cost, and magnetic storage volumes. And they'll be able to get a breakdown of cost by database engines for RDS MySQL, RDS MariaDB, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and SQL Server database instances.
Yeah, and a lot of customers will be familiar with viewing these insights via Cost Explorer in the AWS console. However, you mentioned CUR, and just a level set for folks watching, CUR stands for the AWS Cost and Usage Report, and it's probably the most comprehensive billing report AWS offers. And essentially, you can use CUR for granular reporting for your AWS bill at different levels, such as hourly and daily, perhaps. And you can really dig deep into service-specific metadata using AWS Athena to run queries, perhaps on your data set. It's a handy mechanism, particularly with this release, don't you think, Samir?
Yes, definitely. I work with a lot of customers on cost optimization initiatives, and CUR is a very good starting point for me in all these engagements.
Awesome. So if you haven't set up CUR access with these new RDS data points amongst all others available, please reach out to your account team for information on how to set it up. RDS IOPS and backup itemized billing information is now available to all customers. Samir, thanks so much for joining us once again this month on the stream. It's always a pleasure to have you offering your insights.
It's always great to be here. I love the audience.
Thank you very much. Now let's pivot to some security releases, and Rovin, Omar, and Chamandeep will lead us through those.
That's Carlos, back with security, and Sham, great to see you again, mate. It's been a while since reInvent. Awesome to see you with us today on the security and compliance.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers. So you've prepared three announcements, apology, for us today. Let's start with Firewall Manager. So we know Firewall Manager usually enable customer to centrally deploy and monitor AWS native firewalls. With the new announcement, seems that we extended this capability not just for AWS native firewall, that's also for Palo Alto. So can you maybe shed some light there?
Absolutely, Roman. So first of all, thank you for having me here today. AWS Firewall Manager, or FMS, is a security management service that acts as a central place to configure and deploy firewall rules across accounts and resources in AWS organizations. So many of my customers have asked me that we are managing, as you have indicated, the Amazon network firewall using FMS, but how about some of us who are using Palo Alto one? So with this specific release, customer will be able to orchestrate the deployment of Palo Alto next generation firewall and get centralized visibility into non-compliant resources and configuration across their accounts in AWS organizations. And in addition to that, Firewall Managers also ensures that when customers are going to onboard a new AWS account or VPC, that without having any manual intervention, then Palo Alto Network Firewall endpoints gets deployed into that. So it reduces any operational heavy lifting required to monitor new accounts.
That's quite interesting, and it's quite great actually to see it doesn't require lots of configuration or anything like that. So having AWS native firewall, that's obviously straightforward when it comes to configuration. But when you have a Palo Alto, how are you going to actually get that to be configured or enabled on your network? Can you maybe tell us how can customers start using this feature?
Yeah, sure. So primarily three steps required for this. So you need to onboard Firewall Manager as an administrator account. So also you will require to have AWS config because that's the service we're going to use to track the changes. So that's the first step. Second, customer need to subscribe Palo Alto Network Cloud Next Generation Firewall into using the marketplace unless they already have it. And finally, use Firewall Manager service to create a security group policy and use the Palo Alto Network Firewall as an endpoint and select AWS accounts or VPC where they want to provision the firewalls.
So interesting. I've got to pick something here, Chamandeep, if you don't mind. You mentioned the subscription. Did I get this right? Subscription has to be through the marketplace, or if the customer have their own subscription outside or brings their own license kind of things with Palo Alto, can they bring that?
So it's going to be the marketplace for network firewalls. They can use it from the Palo Alto partner. And in addition to that, actually, I'd like to mention about the models. So when they subscribe, it provides you two different models, a centralized deployment model where they can have a single VPC to inspect the traffic, or they can use a distributed deployment model where they can have endpoints in each and every VPC.
That's super awesome. Okay, that's really good to have a very insightful information about all of the distributed VPC centrally using a Firewall Manager. That's great news, I guess, for customers who use either AWS native firewall or also our partners to Palo Alto. So thanks for that, Cham. So moving to AWS Security Hubs, it seems that we keep actually bringing this service every time with all of the new announcements and controls being added. So this time, 12 more controls being added to the security posture monitoring. We know Security Hub is a security posture management service. Obviously, get you all of the best practice and benchmark your platform against certain industry benchmark. Do you want to maybe start telling us what is AWS Foundational Security Best Practices Standard?
Yeah, sure. So the foundational security best practice standard actually implements security controls that detects when your AWS account or resources running into those accounts do not align with security best practices defined by AWS security experts. So it's kind of a mechanism to provide you or monitor your own security posture to ensure that you are using AWS security best practices.
Got you. Do you want to maybe give us a snippet of what is the services that we can add this new control and get these automatic checks on?
Yeah, so there were many actually, but to name a few, auto scaling, CloudFront, code build, EC2, network firewall, and RDS. Since we were talking about firewalls, a moment ago, so there is one check actually added as part of those 12 releases new. So network firewall provides you option to create stateless rule groups. So if customer create a rule group and they do not add any rule into it, this check is going to provide them a finding that you should not have it and you need to remove it. So that's really an interesting release added as part of those 12 checks.
That's cool. So what about if customers have like custom integration? They've been asking lots of questions. If I do have custom integration, how can Security Hub support that? And I could see a new release when it comes at least to specifying names as well. Can you maybe walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the difference? If before getting into that, I would like to mention about the official integration. So as of today, Security Hub supports 75 official integrations, but it also provides capability to ingest your own findings using custom integration, which customer can build by themselves. So previously, the company and product names for these custom integrations were set to personal and default. And you could not change it. Our customer were not able to change it or specify by themselves because there are some use cases on that. So with these specific release, customer will be able to use a batch import finding, an API, use that API and update the company and the product name. It will be reflected in the Security Hub console. Now, there will be a genuine question after that. So what's the benefit after that? So the benefit is search. So if customer wants to use a search mechanisms to use those findings, they will be able to do that. Second, create insights. If they are looking to create different insights to understand their security posture, they will be use those names, right? And finally, for advanced customer, they can use it to build automated response and remediation workflow to trigger based on it.
Got you. That's quite interesting. And I can see not just also customers benefit from that, partners as well. Because if you can customize the custom integration, can even create different set of rules and different names for different end consumers or customers. That's a partner support. Awesome, great. So pivoting to our last announcement today, so AWS organization seems to provide capability now to centrally close all of AWS accounts or a number of AWS accounts. Do you want to maybe walk us through that? That's great news to all of our enterprise customers.
Absolutely, and this is one of my favorite one. I did share it on LinkedIn as well the day it got released, because this is, if you compare it with how customers were able to close the accounts in the past, they need to recover the root username and password before they can do it. And that was one of the pain points. But with this release, they'll be able to use one API or a call using the management account, and you can close the account, AWS account.
Well, I hope my customers are actually listening to this now, because we do have a regular activity on one of my banks that I look after, and we break glass to certain accounts to refresh these security credentials. So, interesting news. Do we have any limitation or any maybe accidental deletion mechanisms there? Just conscious as being programmatic, and you can now not just have to deliberately break glass to each of account and close it. You can do it using the CLI. Is there any accidental deletion or prevention?
Yeah, that's really a good point, Roman, because this release of Close Account API complements the Create Account, so it provides you end-to-end lifecycle management. But this closed account API, customer can use this specific API as a preventative mechanism. They can create service control policy and restrict to certain individual that they will be able to use it, or exclude certain critical production account that they will not be able to use this API against those accounts. So that's one of the mechanisms at customer side they can limit it. On AWS side, that customer will only be able to close 10% of their accounts per 30 days. So that's kind of a limitation we have introduced on a monthly basis.
Okay, interesting. So just to recap what you're saying, customers obviously can limit who has this access to delete the account or deactivate the account to certain individuals using IAM, obviously, and from AWS perspective, to control that customers who have access through IAM to this role are able to only deactivate 10% of their entire organization on a monthly basis. So is that a limit? Can we increase it by a support case, for example, or it's something cannot be changed?
So as of today, this is a limitation, but it can be reviewed by case-on-case basis. So for that purpose, they'll be able to use their technical account manager and enterprise support to reach out to the service team and fulfill the request accordingly.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. So pretty sure enterprise support customers are really thrilled to hear that. So great news. Looking forward to see you next month with another round of security and governance announcement. And with that, I'm going to bring Platts and Mark Napoli to walk us through their Platts Lounge.
Thanks, Roven.
See you folks.
Hey,
G'day, Matt.
Out with us, Roves. We're just going to talk compute for a bit. Hey, Carlos.
Hey guys, did I crash the lounge?
We're going to talk about the unknown unknowns, because when I read this first one about Bottle Rocket, I had to pause and admit that I had no idea what Bottle Rocket is. So
is this what Jeff Bezos took to space, Mark?
Or is every time I have to admit, every time I read it, I think of those YouTube videos where those teenagers will get a Coke bottle and they'll put some sort of powder in there and pour something in, and the thing just goes flying up. But I'm pretty sure it's not that. It's actually our own open source Linux distribution. So back in 2020, we actually decided we were going to roll our own and create a Linux distribution which is specialized for containers. Now there are other distributions like Core OS that have sort of been custom built for containers, but this is an Amazon roll your own, and it's pretty impressive. Matt, you've looked a little bit at this. What have you found about Bottle Rocket? What do you like?
Well, I love a lot about it, to be honest. It was built from the ground up to run containers. So as you guys might know, Amazon Linux, general purpose OS, it's got a package manager, it's got a whole bunch of stuff baked into it to look at. It really allows you to run whatever you want. But what that also means is there's that additional management layer in the middle. You're gonna patch the OS. You're gonna manage dependency hell inside Linux if you get to that point where you've got two different applications depending on the same package. So with Bottle Rocket, it's just basically lightweight. It does one job. It runs containers. What I love about it, and what really stood out to me, was just around the update mechanism. So it's atomic updates. So you roll back just as quickly as well. When you want to apply updates, obviously you just do a reboot on the box, and when the box comes back up, it's running the latest image. And if you think about it in that context of a fleet of nodes in a cluster running either ECS or EKS, you can see that reduced management.
Yeah, it also cryptographically verifies itself, so it's really sort of been beefed up from a security perspective as well. So there's no SSH into this thing. There's no shell. There's no Python. It's bare bones, and it's sort of been enhanced for security, and of course enhanced to run containers, right? So everyone's familiar with containers. It's obviously it runs. This has got the software to run Docker containers, and have this nice little packages that have sort of resource isolation, and it's beautiful. It even has SC Linux, which I had to have a giggle when I was in my early days as a system administrator, I almost got fired because I would constantly go in as super user and just type silly commands. This is the days before automation, and SE Linux, which basically protects the kernel and stops you from doing silly things as a super user, pretty much saved me from getting fired. So it holds a place close to my heart. So that's Bottle Rocket. What's the update then, Matt? What have we added to it?
Yeah, so now we've added NVIDIA GPU support. So our P3 instances, our P4s, our G4s, all running on NVIDIA A100s, V100s, T4s, GPUs. They've all now been added for support. So yeah, it's a big leap forward if you do have graphics intensive workloads that are running on Linux containers. Now you've got the ability to look at, okay, what is what is a fleet of servers running those applications and those containers, and what can we do to kind of reduce that overhead as well?
Yeah. Nice. I guessing machine learning related workloads, media
Very much
processing,
that's right,
pre and post
geospatial as well. Yeah, anything to do with imagery and processing of that works really well.
Beautiful. Love that one. Okay, Lambda's the next one. Ephemeral storage increased. So I saw 10 gigabyte container image support, but I seem to recall that we also updated the amount of memory you could use for the Lambda function. Is that right, Matt?
That's right, yeah. So in total now, you've got 10 gig container image support, 10 gig memory, and now 10 gig effectively ephemeral storage through /TMP.
Right.
Which again, I'm pretty. I don't know about you guys, but my first Lambda, I still remember it to this day. It was taking a video file and creating a GIF. And back then the limits were a little bit different, so you were balancing a bit more. But today it just makes that a little bit easier around taking an object or taking something from S3, processing it locally within that Lambda, and then spitting out an output. So
yeah. And I also read so this scratch space or this ephemeral space is you access it via /temp. You get 512 meg for free effectively, and then every megabyte after that costs you, right? So it scales all the way from in 1 megabyte increments all the way up to 10 gig. And I didn't know this, but the amount of CPU you get for your function is also tied into the amount of storage you get. So the more storage you throw at it, the more vCPUs you get along for the ride. So cool feature.
It's a massive increase, right? How much of an increase would you say this is from current state? Is about 20 times?
It was 512,
3 gig. Sorry, no, 3 gig was the memory. Yes, 512 up to 10 gig.
Wow.
Yeah, just remember it's also so with obviously Lambda function, local file system access does not extend beyond the lifetime of the requests, right? So if you've got something that needs to be persistent, you still need to use S3, EFS or DynamoDB or whatever other AWS service you have. This is just for your scratch space effectively, but yeah, still a massive increase.
Absolutely.
What about the third one, Matt? Container D support. I have to admit I haven't done a lot with containers and Windows. What have we got here?
Yeah, so I'll have to admit too. But I mean, being an old Linux guy in the day, I won't progress to being a Windows container specialist at all. But it is something I need to work on a bit more. But yeah, we have released Windows support for the Container D runtime, and that's supported in EKS starting from version 1.21.
Okay.
Taking a step back, I mean, looking at Container D, what is it? It sits underneath your platform. So it sits underneath Kubernetes, Docker, and it sits above the lower level container runtimes. So it manages things in regards to the container lifecycle. I like to think of it as a resource manager. So things such as file systems, network, anything that's connecting it to a lower host OS, it's managing that orchestration. So yeah, now with Container D support in Windows, you can really see the options around growing and looking at what workloads specific to Windows can be run now in a container, either through EKS.
Nice. Nice one. Well, thanks for letting us hang out in the compute lounge, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Anytime.
We expect that there may be some more releases coming up, given we have the Sydney Summit, May 18th. So not too far. It's about a month away. Rover, what are you looking forward to here? We've got live keynotes. Is that right?
Yeah, it's actually ANZ Summit now, considering it's virtual. It's not Sydney Summit anymore, so we call it ANZ Summit.
No, I'm showing my AWS age. Yeah.
We all love the Sydney Summit, and everyone hopes that we get back in person again, maybe hopefully next year. So this year is a virtual event. That's why it's ANZ Summit. We do have live 2 keynotes on those 2 days, the 18th and the 19th. And I guess something to point out as well, considering we have audience from APGC region at the moment, we do have Korea Summit on the 10th of May, and the ASEAN Summit on the same days as Australia and New Zealand on the 18th. So looking forward to that. For the ANZ itself, we have over like 90 sessions, and our workshops actually, there are a couple of activities on site, like the keynote. I personally have my own session. I'm not gonna shamelessly advertise to it, but hey,
oh no, tell us. What's your session?
If you're interested in cost optimization, this is where you go. My session on the 19th, myself and one of the solution architects in the well-architected framework team is going to co-present with me. So I'm looking forward to it. It's quite super awesome, looking about the concept and also the tools that you can use to imply these concepts in practice. So, and we also have a demo there. So it's awesome.
Fantastic. If I remember correctly, you were first after the keynote last year and actually ran one of the most popular sessions at the summit last year. So if you're interested in cost optimization, you should definitely check out Raven's sessions. Carlos, anything you're looking forward to with this summit? You've been to a number of these now. Any advice for people?
To be honest, I look forward to all of it. I think just thinking back to when I was a customer, even before when I was in AWS and even now, I think the opportunity to consume a lot of knowledge, just not on the actual new services and new capabilities that we offer, but sort of the thought track of how to actually implement them and how to build a culture around them and how to build momentum within your organization. You get a lot of that just speaking to the AWS folks, and you get a lot of tribal knowledge of how to think about these things. In these summits. It's a lot better in person, but I always come away with a lot of learnings from that. So I really just look forward to all of it, because you come away with a lot of insights.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Cool. All right. Well, that's a wrap for this month. Thank you again for joining us. We're here at the second Friday of every month, 11 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, not daylight saving time anymore. That is gone. We hope you have a wonderful week, a wonderful Ramadan if you're celebrating that this month, wonderful Easter next week, and see you next time.
See you,
everyone.
Take care, everyone.